about so high. I'm nearly driven to insanity when she passes by. She's a snooty little cutie, been so hard to kiss. I'll try to overcome her vanity, and then I'll tell her this. I'm young and
Starting on the hillside, looking over the Glen Burn and Mackay Avenue, we see the gasworks at Inchgreen.
and so are you. When the moon is in the sky, tell me what am I to do? If I could hate you, I'd keep away. But that ain't my nature. I'm full of vitamin A, say. I'm young and healthy, so let's be bold. In a year or two or three, maybe we will be too old.
This is the west end of the town, and from the houses at Chapelton to the shipyards, and from the gasworks at Inchgreen, we travel along towards Russell Street, better known as the Davy Shore. Looking over Boundary Street and Argyle Street, from the Kingston Shipyard,
If I could hate you,
looking west
I'd keep away.
towards
But that ain't
Inchgreen,
my nature. I'm full of vitamin A, B, C,
and on the
D.
left-hand side,
I'm young and healthy,
Boundary
so let's
Street.
be bold.
Boundary Street being the boundary between Greenock and Port Glasgow. This is Boundary Street. The year is 1926, and it's during the time of the Depression. From the Kingston Shipyard, looking east, we have Boundary Street and Argyle Street, and this is Argown Street. Further along Argown Street, we have Octavia Street and Houston Street. Seeing the tram car on the road, the last tram car ran in Port Glasgow, July 1929. Looking west along Argown Street, at the end of the last century. Again Argown Street, and we see the fruit shop of Maggie Henderson and the barber shop of Mr. Gillen. And on the left-hand side of the road, you had the Port Glasgow and Newark Sailcloth Company, or as we knew it, the Glen Mill.
Sweetheart, I love you, think the world of you, but I'm afraid you don't care for me. You never show it, don't let me know it. Everyone says I'm a fool to be pining the whole day through. Why do you act like you do? You're mean to me. Why must you be mean to me? Gee, honey, it seems to me you love to see me crying. I don't know why.
Glenburn Street and Clyde Street in 1973 before demolition, and we can see the Glenburn has already been filled in. Glenburn Street again, over 100 years ago. Belhaven Street, at the end of the working day, in the 1950s. Belhaven Street, and we look towards St John's School. On the left hand side, the Miramichi building. Looking west along Belhaven Street, we have William Street, Laird Street, Mays Street, and on towards the Glen. This is the Plaza Cinema. The Eclipse Picture House, which was demolished in 1938 to make way for the Plaza Cinema. This picture was taken in 1935. Brown Street, and on the left hand side, the West Renfrew Garage and Baird's Engineering. The same scene looking west. The East Yard offices in Brown Street. From Farquhar Street to the Town Hall, noting that everything on the left, from the Plaza Cinema to Water Street, is now a car park. The pedestrian crossing at the bottom of Princess Street, which would now take you into the car park.
There's a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky of blue above. The sun shines bright, the world's alright, 'cause I'm in love. There's a rainbow round my shoulder and it fits me.
From the Town Hall
Let it blow and storm, but I'll be one
to Balfour Street,
in love. Hallelujah, how the folks will stare when
and we see here the bottom of Princess Street
my little baby
in the 1970s.
There's a rainbow round my shoulder and a sky of blue above, and I'm shouting.
The same scene in the 1920s. From King Street to Water Street, which is now the entrance to the Comet Car Park. On the right, Port Glasgow Motor Company showrooms in and before that it was the Palace Picture House. And there you will find now the Social Security, the Job Centre and the Housing Department. The other side of the street in the 1920s, and at the end of the street is where you'll now find Donaghy's Bar, and we're looking to Scarlow Corner. This is Scarlow Corner in the 1920s. Moving along the side of the West Harbour towards Scarlow Corner. This is after they filled the harbour in 1936. And we go along the 4th Street to the town buildings. And it's the town buildings in the 1930s. Same scene in the 1950s. Here they're tearing down the old 4th Street and building the new in the 1920s. Looking to John Wood Street, and on the left hand side would be Lamment's Dry Dock. From the 9 Arches, we see the town below. Farquhar Road in the 20s. From Shanklin Road to Lilybank. The west side of Glen Avenue, and we see Clyde Street. This is now an open road. The Protestant Athletic Club, and the scene today in front is entirely different. the railway bridge and little footbridge across the Glen Burn. Again the footbridge across the Glen Burn, sometime in the 1930s. Clyde Street, and on the right, the old Orange Hall in Mary Street. This is Mary Street, and where the boy is, Ella Scott had a little sweet shop here. William Street, looking towards Rossbank. Alderwood Road, and on the right the trees in the distance is the orchard of Westvale, where in 1938-39 High Home Street was built. And this building belongs to the old High Homes. Glen Avenue. The houses in the centre were demolished before the war, and prefabricated houses were built. They have since been demolished. This land is now just a grass spot. The side of Mrs. Mare's sweet shop, where the children used to get their sweets on the way to school. Going to the left, you'd be going towards High Home School, and going to the right, Chapel Lane. This is a railway bridge to the south of Chapel Lane. The north side of the bridge. And on the right hand side we had a cobbler's shop. On the left, a joiner business. This is Chapel Lane, and we're looking towards Princess Street. The line figure on the wall is the back end of St John's Church.
Hooray for Hollywood. That's Screwy Valley, hooray Hollywood.
Again in the 1920s. Back Row Lane, which ran from Chapel Lane to Shore Street. On the bottom, on the left, we had the Glen Huntly Bar, and on the right, Smith's Warehouse. Princess Street. The building with the ivy is the Hamilton Church. The one next to it is the old town hall, which was demolished in 1962. Again Princess Street. The parish church in Princess Street, which is now St Andrews, and the building on the right is where you'll now find the TSB.
All
Looking down Old Princess Street from the railway station. The old Star Hotel at the top of Princess Street. And Princess Street ran right up past the opening to John Wood Street. John Wood Street wasn't built at that particular time. Here we see the corner of Princess Street and John Wood Street and the new Star Hotel, which still hasn't been occupied. The foot of Basbury. Scott's Lane, which ran down towards the town buildings.
Isn't this a lovely day to be caught in the rain? You were going on your way, now you've got to remain.
Old Church Street, looking towards the parish church in the 1920s.
The clouds broke, they broke, oh what a break for me. I can see the sun up high, though we're caught in the storm. I can see where you and I could be cozy.
Looking in the opposite direction, towards the War Memorial. And on the left we see Johnson's Pawn Shop.
Long as I can be with you, it's a lovely day.
Here are two scenes of Old King Street. John Wood Street, probably in the 1950s.
Long as I can be with you, it's a lovely day.
This is where Monty's pub is now, and we're looking out the Bay Area. Sometime at the beginning of this century. Looking west along the Bay Area, and we have George Street, Victoria Street, and John Wood Street. Here are three scenes of the Old Bay area, which was demolished around about 1911. And you'll notice the buildings are not in uniform, but some with the gable ends out. Some are built high and some are low. And these were taken at the end of the last century. Blackstone Corner, with the Guruk rope work in the background. These old buildings were demolished and the rope work built a store in their place. It was just on Blackstone Corner. This is a store here. We also see a consignment of ropes from the rope work on its way to somewhere in the 1950s. This is Blackstone, and if we went left, we'd come towards the castle, Ferguson's and Lamont Shipyard. If we go right, we're going up Robert Street. The church is St Mary's Church, which was demolished to build a new Newark roundabout, and the new church was built up the hill in a Badreni housing scheme. This is Robert Street looking up under the railway bridge in the 1950s. Looking down Robert Street towards Blackstone Corner. The same scene in the 1920s, Robert Street, and you can see the tram car at Blackstone Terminus. Robert Street again. And on the left, the old toll house. On the right, Clune Park School. At the end of the last century.
I know a girl
Again Blackstone Corner, and going up through the railway bridge, turning left, we're going out the Glasgow Road, travel along a little further and turn left again, we go up the Cloonbrae, and moving straight on again, to the right, Bouvray. In the centre of the picture here is the Hibs Hall, and most of these buildings have now been demolished. It's heading up the Cloonbrae. From the Cloonbrae, we look towards the Baker's Yard at Fife Park and on out the Glasgow Road.
Though the skies are cloudy, they're bound to clear up someday. Bluebirds will say howdy, because you cheer up and say, come on, Mr. Trouble, who's afraid of you?
Here we see Old Montgomery Street, and we're looking down the Cloonbrae. And in the centre of the picture, you'll see the old railway goods yard at Blackstone. We're looking down the Cloonbrae and we can see the Gourock Rock work and Mill Lum. Travelling up the Cloonbrae, there's not a lot to change here, except that on the right hand side there has been a few more houses built, and this is in the 1950s. A very old shot of Fernbank and Auchlech Terrace. The house is at the top of Cloonbrae, and in this field is where you would now find the Clydeview housing scheme, and this is the original Cloonbrae Road, which is now a road into these houses. From the top of Higgies Avenue, look up towards where the Clydeview Roadhouse would be. And on the left would be the High Carnegie housing scheme. This is Broadfield Cottage, which is just across from the top of Higgies Avenue. And since this picture was taken, this house has all been modernised outside. Here we see the toll house on the Clune Brae. Again the toll house, and if we go right, we're going down onto Farquhar Avenue.
'Cause when I'm paddling home, gee, when I'm paddling home,
And here we're travelling up the old Clune Brae Road,
then I pull for the shore. I hug her and
which run up behind where
then I keep
the petrol station is now.
paddling home until I find a spot where we're alone. Oh, she never says no, so I kiss her and go paddling, sweet.
Coming into the picture on the right, you'll see a signpost that tells us this is the boundary between Port Glasgow and Kilmacombe. And it's just opposite where the petrol station stands. Bogglestone House, which is near to Bogglestone Roundabout. This is Broadfield Estate, 1945-46. And again we can see Bogglestone House. The Broadfield houses, and it's the same scene as the last, with Kilmacombe road running up. And again we see Bogglestone House. Where this little hut is probably where you would now find the Clune Brae Hotel. Here they're about to build the Bogglestone Roundabout, and they're raising the ground up to make the new Kilmacombe Road, which runs up past the high school, and it's in the 1950s.
If you all answer the call when your professor cries, everybody down on the heels, up on the toes, stay off to school, learn how it goes. Everybody do the varsity drag.
Looking down Dubbs Road, and on the left is where they built the Dubbs Road houses and shops, and on the right behind this tree we're going up Auchenbothy Road.
Here is a drag, see how it goes. on the toes. That's the way to do the varsity drag.
Now we take a look in and around the harbours. This is the West Harbour, and we see the timber pond with the old Fore Street in the background.
Oh, what I'd give for that wonderful phrase, to hear those three little words. That's all I'd live for the rest of my days. And what I feel in my heart, they tell sincerely. No other words could mean it half so clearly. Three little words, eight little letters, which simply mean I love you.
The old Coronation Park, as seen from the river. The West Harbour again, and we see the 5 lamps, and they were taken away in 1921 to build a war memorial. Again, the Coronation Park in the 1950s. The unveiling of the War Memorial in 1921. There was quite a big turnout. Concertina House between West Harbour and the Mid Harbour, and it was used for a variety of purposes: customs house, fire station, etc. This is the Mid Harbour with all the little boats.
You're the cream in my coffee, you're the salt in my stew. You will always be my necessity, I'd be lost without you. You're the starch in my collar, you're the lace in my shoes. You will always be my necessity, I'd be lost without you. Most men
Again, the Mid Harbour. The longboat, out to collect in the wood after a lunch. We also see the Perch Lighthouse. On the right, Rogers Shipyard, and they launched into the East Harbour. In the centre of the picture, some of the older generation will have fond memories of the Iron Bridge. Lamment's Dry Dock. All the barges in the harbour about 1945. The Navy used this harbour during the war.
I just got an invitation through the mail.
Here are 3 shots of the harbour being filled in to build the Coronation Park in 1936.
Because I'm invited to step out this evening in a top hat, white sign sail. I'm putting on my top hat, tying up a white tie, brushing off my tail. I'm duding up my shirt front, putting in the shirt studs, polishing my nails. I'm stepping out, my dear, to breathe an atmosphere that simply reeks with class. And I trust that you'll excuse my dust when I step on the gas, for I'll be there, putting down my top hat, mussing up my white tie, dancing in my tail.
The bucket crane that sat round the harbours for many a year. Some people will recognise the ship here as a torch. Here we have a snatch of 3 harbours, the West, the Mid and the East Harbour. Again, the timber ponds. The harbour's from Barsbury. This is part of the Old Bay area, around about 1908. Looking along the waterline of the shipyards from the Mirren Shore, 1962. This is what Port Glasgow looked like just over 200 years ago. The year is 1789, and it's 14 years after the town became a borough. Moving on 36 years to 1825, we see the ropework building. This building had 3 more flats added to it in 1896. On another 4 years, and it's 1829. The harbour walls in 1837. Another 2 years brings us to 1839. This is what the harbour looked like on the 4th Street in 1840. 1841, and the year the railway came to town. And we'll see here the 4 arches that carry the flow of water from the burn to the river. These arches have now been covered over and are part of the railway embankment. The harbours in 1850. Rodston Jubilee Hospital. It was gifted to the town by John Birkmeyer on the occasion of his golden wedding. The hospital was opened in 1907, and we're looking down Birkmeyer Avenue. From the 9 arches we see the Kingston shipyard. And coming into the centre bottom of the picture, Glen Park House. The Chapelton houses. We also see the shipyards of Hamilton's and Duncan's. Here we see Port Glasgow Bowling Green, and above it the Miramichi building, which was just opposite William Street. Most of the scenes that you see, taken from the hillside, looking down on the town, are rare, in the sense that they can't be photographed today. There are so many trees and bushes have sprung up along the hillside in town that it makes most of these scenes very difficult to view nowadays. Old King Street and Church Street. about 1914. We also see John Wood Street. Part of the old Bay Area, around about 1908. Here we also have a nice shot of the harbours. Looking over Blasbury to the town below. Again, the old Bay Area, around about 1911, before it was demolished. This is what the town buildings and the concertina house looked like from Blasbury. Fifth View and Bouvray. And we also see right down along the line of the shipyards as far as Greenock. Again, Fifth View and Bouvray. And we see Old Bouvray, where you will now find the Bouvray Rangers Club. In front of the tree, St Mary's Church at Blackston Corner. And at the side of the tree you'll just see a bus coming into Blackston Terminus. From somewhere about Ardmore Road, we look down over the Clune Brae to the houses on the Glasgow Road. For the number of shots that have been taken of Newark Castle throughout the years, here are just a few of the ones that I like the best. The oldest part of the castle, the tower, which forms the south-east corner of the courtyard, was built sometime between 1450 and 1477. In the early 16th century, the guardhouse was built, and towards the end of the 16th century, the central portion of the castle was complete. Here we see what Port Glasgow railway station looked like in the days of the steam train. From where Cardross Avenue is now, we're looking at the houses at the top of the Clune Brae. The buildings of Fernbank and Auchinleck Terrace. And this is the original Clune Brae Road. These are the houses just beyond Auchinleck Terrace. Elmworth, and it was once the home of Alexandra Gray, who was provost of the town from 1892 to 1895. It was across from the top of Mary Street, where Glen Park Drive is today, and it was demolished sometime in the 1960s. The Broadfield Gatehouse. Bogglestone House, and here you will now find Bogglestone Primary School. Alderwood Road. The house on the right is now a burned out shell. And the house coming in on the left is Marchmount, which is now a residential nursing home. Carnegie Orphanage, on the hill above Carnegie, and it ceased to be an orphanage many long years ago. Craigard Villas in Barsbury, just behind the railway station, and this is around 1912. Wood Hall Mansion. And Wood Hall Mansion stood where St Manton's Church stands today. And it was from Wood Hall Mansion that Mansion Avenue got its name. The Spring Well House is on Barsbrae, just opposite Moray Road. And in the background we see the Roundhouse. The Roundhouse has now been demolished. Just a few yards away, and still at the top of Barsbrae, and beyond this wall, you will now find the Glen Huntly housing scheme. The house in the centre of the picture is Glen Huntly House. Looking down Old Princess Street, and the only building still in existence on this side of the street today is the Princess Street Church, which is now used as a furniture store. Again, Old Princess Street. This is a very old shot of Church Street, which was once named Kirk Street. William Street, and coming into the picture, Mooney's little grocer shop. The 4th Street in the 1950s. The age of this picture can be seen in the height of the ship's funnel. Now we have a few shots of the Port Fair. The fair would start at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday and would finish on a Saturday night, being Fair Saturday. It was probably the biggest event of the year at that particular time. The Yacht Club at the Mill Dam, and the occasion being Her Majesty the Queen's visit to the town in 1958. This clubhouse was later destroyed by fire. Before the days of foreign holidays, or even doon the water, this was the town's favourite picnic spot. Yeah, sure, right. The Mill Dam. Now we'll see a few shots of Bitmire Park, or the public park as we know it, taken throughout the years. This one was taken in the 1950s. The opening of Bitmire Bowling Green in 1896. The Bowling Green should be holding its centenary in a couple of years' time. Also at the end of the last century, the little girls and boys playing on the maypole and swings. The house peering between the trees is Glen Huntly House. Bitmire Bowling Green, and we see the figure of the Bruce that was taken from one of the last sailing ships and stood in the grounds of the Bowling Green for many years. People have asked what happened to this figure. I can only assume that when the clubhouse was destroyed by fire in the 1950s and the rubble was cleared away, the figure was also removed. A couple of old gents playing on the draft board. There were quite a few sporting activities taking place in this park throughout the years. As well as the tennis courts, we had a football park. This is the kiting club. This was quite a popular sport. Port Glasgow Golf Club, and this is what the clubhouse looked like in 1928. The golf club will also be holding its centenary in 1995. Scarlow Corner in the 1950s, we see the Employment Exchange and James Wright, funeral undertaker. We also see here the Port Glasgow Cooperative Society, or as we knew it, the Co. Here's another Co, the one at the bottom of the Clune Brae. And we also see the houses at the bottom of the Clune Brae. The taller building was nicknamed Honeymoon Terrace because of the number of newlyweds that lived there. It was mostly room and kitchens and single ends. Now we'll see a few different views of the Nine Arches. In front of the arches, and at the end of the last century, this was known as the Glenboys Well. Two little girls playing in the barn, and at the top of the picture you'll see someone keeping a watchful eye over them. A train coming along the High Line and about to cross over the Nine Arches. We also see the houses of Ivybank. Further down the Glenburn, this is where the burn runs under the Glen Bridge. Shanklin Road, looking west towards Folkestone. Again from Shanklin Road, this time looking east, down Lilybank, round about 1912. Over the Glen Bridge to the west side of Glen Avenue. Glen Park House, and we see coming in on the right part of the Nine Arches. From Alderwood Road, on the left, Jean Street School, and we're looking along Glen Avenue. Glen Avenue at the top of Balfour Street, and we're looking along the narrow lane to Mrs. Mayor's sweet shop.
Fifth Dew and Spring Hill, and on the right, Bouverie Street. And I must say that Bouverie looks a lot nicer today than it does here. The corner of Princess Street and John Wood Street in 1914. John Wood Street again in the 1950s. And this takes us back a few more years. Bay Street, looking to John Wood Street, where you will now find Court Road. Here are a couple of scenes of the old Bay Area at the end of the last century. These buildings were demolished before 1912. The little white building is called the Port Bar. It's just one of the many pubs in the town at that particular time. The mill lum and a good rope work. And you can see on the west side of the building the mark where they added the 3 flats that I told you about at the start. It's also visible on the shell of the old building today. Carnegie Park Gardens in 1912. Anderson Street, and on the right is where we had the fire station. The Glen burned in 1973 before they filled it in to build the dual carriageway. The 4th Street in August 1902, the occasion being the coronation of Edward VII. A tram car about to round Scarlow Corner, just about where the housing department is today. Old Port Glasgow Road, and in 1937 the Town Council changed the name of Old Port Glasgow Road to Parkhill Avenue. Also on Old Port Glasgow Road was the Wallace tree, and when the Holy Family Church was built, the tree found itself in the church grounds. It has now been removed because of its dangerous state. I'd now like to show you a few of the older churches and schools, this being the Baptist Church in Glenburn Street, with Houston Street in the background. Newark Church, Glen Avenue, was built in 1774. St John's Church, Shore Street, built 1854. St Mary's Church at Blackstone, built in 1856. Clune Park Church. The parish church in Princess Street was built in 1825 on the grounds of the old parish church, which was built in 1717. The EU Congregational Church in Balfour Street. The Monk Church, and it was behind where the Clyde Roadhouse is now. The congregation of this church later moved on to the Holy Family Church. The West Church, at the corner of Jean Street and Brown Street. The Hamilton Church, Princes Street, built in 1847. It moved up the hill to unite with the Budrainy Church to become the Hamilton Budrainy Church. St John's School, at the corner of Balfour Street and Shore Street, and it was built 1883. Chapelton School at Lillybank was built 1877. This is High Home School in 1908. Jean Street School was built 1884. And finally St John's Primary School at Mary Street was built in 1931.